This video is to show some more features of the program, Family Diagram Maker. We're going to talk about some settings that are up here along the kind of menu ribbon. We're going to talk about just a quick setup for families and then spend a bunch of time on a thing called events and the timeline. So the first thing is that there's a settings tab here. And this will let you go in and customize a lot of the choices that you can select for different kinds of things. And so, for example, if you want to have your own relationship categories that are different than the ones that come with the program, you can get rid of some of these. You can add some, uh, same kind of thing. If you're doing self and relationships, kind of a special category or functional fact categories, you can add, as many as you want. So depending on where you are in the program, you might want to come up here and pick one of these categories and set them. Nodal events is another big major category. You may, have a need to have different ones. There is a default set of nodal events: birth, death, marriage, separation, divorce, affairs, engagement, friendships. Those are kind of fixed, but you can add and change as much as you want on other kinds of things depending on what you're tracking. So the settings panel lets you pick and set your own categories for things to kind of customize the program to your liking. The other just quick item here is that if you want to add a whole new kind of family, or you're just starting out, you can right click anywhere on the canvas, the white area, and you can add family. And it'll pop up this little screen where you can basically put in, like the dad and, the sex, the birth date if you want, the mom, sex and birth date, child one, and however many child you want to have, child two. We'll just leave it at that and we'll hit save. And it basically goes ahead and creates a basic diagram for you. And you can highlight this whole thing and then you can move it all around, and it could come up here and be part of Alex's family of origin. So that's just sort of a quick thing to help you get a family set up, instead of just all the individual kinds of events that you have to do, all the individual clicks you have to do to keep setting up each person. And we'll just delete that for now. Okay, delete, remove as child, oops. Delete, remove as person. I'll just put those three over there and forget them for now. Okay, so you can right click and you can add a family, right? Just like you can add a person, you can add a coach, which we've done up here with this person. You can also add an AI agent if people are using AI to have a relationship and get advice from and talk to. They're kind of coming into the picture. Now, the other thing that's very important about the program is not only just who's on the diagram, but what are the events that are taking place that are happening in their system. And so if you click on a person, and Emma Carter is considered the client here, she's got this orange background to kind of highlight that. And then come over, we're going to make this panel a little wider and we'll click on events. So because this is a demo program, Emma's got all kinds of events going on. And probably some of these we should get rid of because they're garbage, but doesn't matter. The main point is that there's lots of events here that are related to Emma. If I click on Noah and click on events, there's all kinds of events related to Noah. So things like births, deaths, illness, moving, functional facts, relationship facts. These are all events. So when I create something like a relationship with Noah, that creates an event related to the relationship that gets set up. And if Emma starts having kind of conflict with her mother, as indicated by this line, that conflict line can have its whole series of events. You can track over time how that relationship pattern is intensifying or not intensifying, or significant points in the timeline of what's been going on. So you can get very, very detailed tracking of what's happening in these different relationship patterns between the different people. And and so that's just the main thing. Each one of these relationships sets up uh, a relationship pattern, I should say, sets up an event, and then the pattern itself can have multiple events. So, for example, whether it's a discrete event, or it's ongoing, or it's gone up and down, something special has happened all along the way. Maybe they had an argument on a particular week, and you want to flag that event. Maybe they were getting along better for a while, and you want to flag that event. Um, so that's the idea behind events that can happen, and these can be related to a relationship pattern. They can be related to the partnership relationship. So, a partnership can have its own events. And so, in this particular one, it's a nodal event. The relationship started, um, and then the person can have different events. There's also events at a family level. So, this family, the Carters, have this family object that's tracking events that are occurring at a family level. And this is related to Randy Frost's process for assessing families and and his family assessment guide. There are things related to triangles at the family level, and things related to functioning at the family level that can be tracked if you want to. There's no reason that you have to, but these also create events. So now, one of the things about events is that these can be plotted on a timeline. And so if you click on somebody and then right click, you can go down and you can see timeline. So you click on timeline, and this now shows you, and it tries to go from when the person was born to the current time, events that have happened in their life along their timeline. And it will color code them according to the intensity level of the event. And what this does is it gives you kind of a visual representation of what's been going on in their life. And it can really help clarify things. And so you'll get this kind of timeline pattern. Now you can click on a year to make that kind of the beginning year. You can drag back and forth to kind of move along a sliding point. So if I want it to go from 2016 and then I want to bump it up and go to 2026, I now have a 10-year timeline in here. And depending on what was going on, you'd see all these different events. And if you click on event, it'll pop up all the details. You can edit it. You can also add an event by clicking over here, and it'll let you pop up an event to add to the timeline. So you can really begin to build a nodal events timeline for a person, and that can help bring out, some of the pattern behaviors that people are going through, and begin to understand, like, oh, look at all this stuff that happened, before, this other stuff started happening. Now, that was one person. We can also then, we click on a person, and then we do a shift click, hold down the shift key and click again. And now we have two people highlighted by that blue circle around them. And on either one, if you do a right click and go for timeline, you now will see both of them on the timeline. And now you can see the events that are going on between both of them, and begin to understand, how they're functioning and what's going on. And I picked the wrong thing here to mess it up. So let's just go up here. A big clue here is just poke around till you get it to be what you want. And so if I want to, I've changed this to 2022 to 2026, and now you can kind of see a little bit about what's going on. You can put a start date and an end date on these so that they have a discrete amount of time if they only went for 6 months or a year or something like that. But again, it gives you a visual representation over time that I think helps bring out different kinds of patterns, relationship functioning than just solely looking at the diagram, which is just like everything up to date at this point. There is also a timeline function at the top here where you can kind of erase everything on the screen going back in time. And I haven't set all the dates up properly here, or this would become empty. Uh, and then you can just go forward 1 year at a time. Alex came into the picture, um, and at some point he got old enough, and I must have Liam's age wrong because he showed up before they got married. um, but begins to show, what's happening here. And over time, it lets you play it out another way. So that's kind of like a movie of the family as it grows. So that's one kind of timeline. And then the other timeline is this sort of visual representation of nodal events. It's a nodal event timeline. Um, so, as a little bit of a recap, um, we have settings that let you go in and determine categories for things to put labels basically on all these different events. We have a quick family setup if you want to just add a family to the diagram or you're starting off with a new diagram. And then we have this notion of events that are available to you to track in great detail what's going on and record the functional facts of a family system. And those functional facts then can be seen through this kind of movie play diagram timeline up here in the upper left area. And or it can be also seen by picking the timeline option when you right click on somebody and you see them all laid out along a timeline graph view like that. So thank you very much. If you have any comments about this, any suggestions, I'd be very, very happy to hear them.